Welcome to Power Talks with Santosh Sir. Today we have with us His Excellency Dr. Sheel Kant Sharma, the Secretary General of SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. An economic and political conglomeration of 8 South Asian nations, SAARC is the largest of its kind with an influence over 1.5 billion people. South Asians have considerably contributed to the economy, the science and the IT sector of several Western nations. But South Asia itself struggles with conflict and crisis. Your Excellency, what is SAARC doing in combating terrorism and drug trafficking in the region?
The SAARC the process started in the mid-80s. And one of the very first steps which SAARC took was to have a convention for suppression of terrorism. And that was accepted in 1987. It went into operation by the end of the decade. Then it was followed up by a protocol on criminalizing and preventing financing of terrorism, which went into operation by 2004. It has been further built upon by an agreement which was adopted last year on mutual legal assistance. So these are the building blocks in which SAARC countries agreed to work for eradicating terrorism. So all this is now recognized as the way to deal with terrorism. And the SAARC processes have paved way in that direction. It is still a long way to go, and implementation is still in the hands of the member states.
Unlike European Union and NAFTA, SAARC is not yet a strong platform for the South Asian integration and unification. Why is SAARC still a weak entity, and how can SAARC become a strong player?
It's a very good question, and it's a very expected question. I've answered this several times. What I always say is that you should see weaknesses or strengths in the perspective of the countries concerned. SAARC region has 1/5 of humanity. So as a result, the SAARC organization represents the largest regional organization in terms of population. In the case of SAARC, it started with 7, and the last expansion took place in 2007 when Afghanistan joined in. So it is the 8 countries which complete SAARC. Then in 25 years, SAARC has done a large number of things in the normative sense. Because with 1.5 billion people, this organization itself cannot do much. It provides a template, and the member states are to implement it. And people forget that not only India, but even Pakistan and Bangladesh are large countries where populations are something like 16 crores or 17 crores. Even Nepal, which with nearly 29 million people, would figure as one of the larger countries, say, in Europe. So people forget that SAARC consists of large countries with huge populations, and it's a developing region. So it has a problem of not only demographic explosion, but economic underdevelopment, and on top of this, terrorism as a menace has affected this region. We are not flush with funds. We need to every dollar for any of our countries has 20 priorities chasing it. So SAARC is cannot afford to be profligate. So if you see this entirety and you see our achievements, we have a convention against terrorism. We've gone ahead with the SAFTA, which is a SAARC free trade area. So there is a vision which is there. It comprises a number of steps. These steps are being worked upon, though slowly. It takes time.
What will be the focus of the SAARC summit to be held in Bhutan next year?
Frankly, it's a little premature to speak about that, because the SAARC summits, they comprise 2 things. One is that they are the annual occasion for stock taking, and they review the progress. And then the second thing is they set out the agenda for the future. So the agenda can only be discussed after a few months.
Climate change and global warming are the serious threats that the world will soon have to face. South Asia, being the world's largest populous region, we sense that water crisis might be an inevitable issue or a crisis to deal with. Is SAARC planning anything to deal with this catastrophe?
SAARC has had environment on its agenda for a considerable length of time. And last year we had also a SAARC meeting of climate change ministers in Dhaka. They have developed an action plan, and the action plan essentially is for the member states to implement. It deals with how to cooperate and coordinate strategies to deal with the problem in the international forums. So in all these dimensions of the climate change problem, the SAARC process is engaged, and the ministers have gone back with the SAARC action plan. Action will be in the hands of the governments. The good thing is that all SAARC countries realize the dangers, and there is heightened awareness and consciousness to deal with the problem. So successive SAARC meetings on the subject and the overall charter body meetings, they deal with this issue.
Your Excellency, will continue with our conversation after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Power Talks. We are in conversation with His Excellency Dr. Sheel Kant Sharma, the Secretary General of SAARC. Your Excellency, as a scholar of nuclear physics yourself, to what extent do you think the nuclear power of a country contributes to its prosperity and development?
You know, nuclear power is a very big and effective solution to a whole host of problems. It meets with energy crisis. It also deals with energy crisis without damaging the environment. It is also an answer to climate change threats. The technology has been with the world for more than half a century, and people have been working on it. So today what we have in terms of technology in nuclear power is far superior to what we had, say, 40 years back. There were safety concerns which have been addressed now.
What are the downsides that you see of the nuclear power?
I personally, as a person who has dealt with nuclear energy and power for last 25, 30 years, I do not believe that nuclear power, the downsides of nuclear power are any more threatening than the downsides of various other industries. On the other hand, the concentration of highly intelligent and professional workforce which is involved in nuclear power production, it gives a far more credible assurance about its safety. So nuclear power technology today is much safer than what it was, say, in the 80s. The world community has had enormous attention focused on the danger posed by nuclear weapons. There is virtual unanimity now that nuclear weapons have no use. And as far as the science and technology is concerned, the scientists told us way back in 1956 at the first Pugwash, when Einstein was also there, that nuclear weapons are no good, they are bad.
During your tenure as the Secretary General of SAARC, what will be your major focus and your goals to achieve?
My goals and my way is already given by my member states. The SAARC agenda, which is shaped by successive summits, it has a lot on its plate, and my principal job and duty is to push that agenda as much as I can, and that agenda incorporates trade, investment, coordination in the financial matters. It also includes energy in a big way. It includes culture, education. There is a culture center which is coming up in Sri Lanka. In the field of higher education, there is a South Asian University which is coming up in Delhi. In addition, my personal endeavor over the last 1 year has been focused on a SAARC development fund which has been created by the last summit in Colombo, which sets out money from the SAARC countries to actually have project-based cooperation in the region. I have started 2 projects now. One is a project on women's empowerment. This is a very ambitious project, and through trade their economic conditions can improve and a positive and virtuous cycle can be created so that they can produce more and get more for their effort, and then their lives can be transformed. So it has just started. The SAARC Development Fund has given the money for it, And we hope that in all SAARC countries, except India, this project will go through.
How has your experience been traveling in different parts of South Asia?
In my career as a diplomat in the Indian Foreign Service, I have served abroad, and it was really abroad in the sense that I was in the Middle East and Europe, and I traveled extensively outside the region. But this is my first opportunity to travel into South Asian region. It is a wonderful place. Your own country, Nepal, offers so much to see. The mountains and the valleys and the greenery there, and the snow peaks, they are tremendous. I have this great sense of fulfillment when I travel in South Asia, because the people are alike, their aspirations and their problems are very similar, and they have hundreds of years of historical experience which binds them together.
You worked in Switzerland and now you're in Nepal, both the countries with beautiful landscapes and great tourist destinations. What is SAARC doing to uplift the regional tourism in the SAARC regions?
SAARC has tourism on its agenda, and the mechanisms which they have put in place, they are addressing the problems in its various dimensions. Actually, a meeting took place just last month in Colombo on SAARC tourism, and they came out with a number of action points. Like 2010 will be declared as the year of SAARC tourism. The visa regulations and people-to-people transits, for them also questions are there to address, and there is a process already at hand which can do these problems, which can solve these problems. And lastly, the most important aspect of tourism is connectivity. So SAARC is looking at connectivity in land, sea, air connectivity. So we hope that in the coming months and years, we will do very definitive steps in the field of transport and connectivity, which is the mainstay of tourism.
Your Excellency, will continue with our conversation after a short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Power Talks. We are in conversation with His Excellency Dr. Sheel Kant Sharma, the Secretary General of SAARC. Your Excellency, what does Afghanistan's inclusion in the SAARC region mean to both the SAARC and Afghanistan?
Afghanistan's joining SAARC fulfills a long-standing gap in SAARC, and the aspirations of the South Asian region vis-a-vis Afghanistan, they go back to the past 30-40 years. When we were in school, there was a famous film, Kabuliwala, and the Afghan in all over South Asia was the venerable, respected man, and that Kabuliwala, people, the whole story brings tears in your eyes. We want that Afghanistan to be back, and we want whole of South Asia to work with Afghanistan to have mutual enrichment, to have trade and transit, and to have peaceful cooperation. So I think this is one of the very long-standing and very promising steps that we have taken in SAARC.
How do you view the advisory role of SAARC's 8 observers, especially in terms of economic cooperations?
Well, the observers, they started joining SAARC in recent years, and it is the reflection of global interest and very benign and very benevolent interest on the part of major powers of the world to impel SAARC towards its charter objectives. SAARC is very open to cooperate with observers. Member countries of SAARC have had a long history of cooperation with these observer countries. The idea is now to integrate that cooperation under the SAARC umbrella and to see how much can be done. In addition, the international organizations and agencies also have had last 30 years of history of cooperation with SAARC. So both the observer states and associations of states as well as international organizations, with them SAARC has a very good agenda to work, and we are going to work slowly, but we definitely have many plans to work in that direction.
Like European Union introduced a common currency euro, does SAARC have a plan to introduce a common currency for the entire South Asian nations?
Yes, the SAARC vision for a SAARC economic union, it encompasses the step about common currency, but that step comes towards the final stages. Before we come to that goal, we need to have first a free trade agreement fully functional. We need to have a free trade agreement which includes services. We need to remove the non-tariff and tariff barriers. We need to have harmonization of standards. We need to have customs harmonization. We need to have a common customs union. Then from there we move to a kind of a common market. Only then can we move to a common currency. As you know, in European Union, even today, all 27 countries do not have the same currency. They also have had a graduated plan to move forward. And UK, for instance, remains outside the Eurozone. And the later entrants to the European Union have also been given a number of requirements to fulfill before they can join the Eurozone. So when the world's most prosperous countries, they also take their time, SAARC will also need to be given sufficient time to work in that direction.
South Asia, unfortunately, is also the home for world's largest poor population. What are the initiatives taken by SAARC to uplift the economic standards of common people and work on poverty reduction as well?
Poverty alleviation is the overarching goal of SAARC. And it is now 15 summits that have consistently endorsed that goal. But for 1.5 billion people, when you talk about lifting them out of poverty, naturally the doers will have to be member states, their governments, and even their own governments, as you follow the newspapers, they also deal with a whole range of actors in each country. So poverty alleviation and dealing with the problem of the masses, actually that is the core, that's the be all and the end all of SAARC. If SAARC cannot do something for them through the combined efforts of all our governments and member states and people, then we will not be coming true to the expectations from us, from our people.
A sound and effective economic cooperation between the SAARC nations can be solution to many of the problems that our countries face. But we don't have a proper communication, airline connections, cargo services, and open trade environment. How long will it take SAARC to bridge that gap?
It is difficult to put a date on these goals. But what I can really say with definite conviction is that a definitive movement in that direction is already underway, and it will not be long before we can progress substantially in that direction. So bringing the people together and getting partnerships at the level of people through connectivity in various dimensions, including education and culture and sports and activities which also take place outside the formal mechanisms of SAARC. You also have the impact of 15 SAARC summits, very large number of ministerial meetings has been in terms of a lot of social organizations which have come in, which are outside the formal domain of SAARC Secretariat, but they are working in that direction. We have SAARC food festivals. We have had a SAARC band festival in Colombo and in Delhi. So youth festivals are taking place, film festivals. So all this will bring together SAARC and remove the strangeness which has crept into the region which was united for centuries together. I can only say, coming from India, we've grown up with Mahatma Gandhi's talisman. In his last years, he had said that one talisman for you to whatever you do is just think whatever your action are, what impact they will have on the poorest person in your society, whether it improves his lot or not. I think that is a very, very good talisman for us to work also. Whatever we work in SAARC, we should be, it should be in the forefront that the impact of our actions should improve their lot.
Let us hope that SAARC is successful in its endeavors and is able to make South Asia one of the richest, one of the prosperous nations in the world. With this hope, I wish you good luck and goodbye. See you next week, the same time. Thank you for being with us.